everybody, welcome back to Tales Off the Holotables. We haven't done one of these in a while. I've been super busy with a lot going on. It's all functionally irrelevant, but this is where we started. This is where video began for the Egnards crew, and it's really my personal favorite thing to do. Technically, this is the first time we're doing the splintered off Players Edition. I am here today with Csquared, who is a big part of my Discord, one of my moderators, a wart on my ass that I can't seem to get away from at any point in time. But more importantly, co-conspirator for the Gungies, a big reason as to why the Gungies actually happened and just wasn't a joke that we played on Discord. Maybe not somebody that everybody in the community is familiar with, but absolutely an important voice. So, Csquared, how you doing tonight?
I'm good, Egg. I appreciate the introduction. Yeah, no one knows this except the people in my Discord that I'm going to drop this video to when it comes out. So hi.
It'll be a nice surprise. I do plan on doing it tomorrow because, like I said when we were talking earlier, and you're like, "Oh man, you're gonna have to do all this editing." There's no editing. There's no production value. Everything made pretty here is made pretty because Moonborn he's like the god of all of this. When he says,
"Thank you, Moon,"
I don't even come to him anymore. He just goes, "This looks like shit. Let's do it better." And I just oblige and I say, well, thank you very much. So we will drop it tomorrow. But the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, just a quick overview on you in relation to the game, where you started, when you started playing, your GP now, how you got there, just quick so that we have that that going.
Okay, so I started playing 2022 based off a YouTube ad. Kind of got into guild leadership real early in a small guild. Had about just over 4 or 5 when the first Slicker Ray Lightspeed bundles dropped. Those were obviously what they are. Now I sit at just over 11 in the year of our Lord 2025. Still leading the guild strong and having a great time just ruining your chat with my game ignorance.
Just you devolve everything. But again, definitely. You are a Lightspeed bundle account. You've bought them. They're great. I am very pro them. I've said that a lot. I don't want to get into the business of that tonight and why I think that they're great. But as I said before, yeah, we'll just drop it all the way down. The Gungies, you are a huge part of it. It started as, I don't think you were there for the very beginning when we were fucking with Vanced, but then you just dropped the, hey, I'm a savant and I know every line in the office, and what you're doing is the Dundies, so let's call it the Gungies. And I very clearly remember that moment and just thinking, well, fuck, now we have to do this. And you you have been there since the very beginning. So I appreciate that. You are a big reason why it was able to happen.
I appreciate it.
Tell me, I know I did a lot on the fore end. Tell me about your experience on the back end, if anything.
Well, if you didn't think it was funny, you should have seen what was left on the cutting room floor. I had a great time just spitballing jokes at you and dumb ideas. Like we had ideas for trailers and just stupid nonsense. But I think seeing it all come together, I'll be honest, I knew everyone knows Anil, everyone knows Nooch. But half the names on there, I was like, oh, okay, never heard of this guy. And they were funny. Or like Bit just showing up. Like, I think that's what was the biggest deal, is just seeing people that, there is a bit of celebrity, I guess, in the community. Just have a great time with the thing that brings us all together, and that's Star Wars. And I thought it was cool. I thought it was really cool.
Anyone who hasn't seen it, just because you said it, like Bit Dynasty, he is a legend in the community. He just stole the show, and I remember showing you that video ahead of time, and you basically had the same idea as me. We were kind of like, we can't have his video early on. This has to be like right at the end, because there will be not a single thing that can live up to what he did there. And he was always a big supporter. He was posting about it on the event server, on his server, everywhere. So I really appreciate that. And as you had said, we left a lot on the cutting room floor. We came up with the idea. I'd have to look in Discord. I think probably September. We launched the show in January. It didn't give us the time to do all of these things that we wanted to do.
Well, and like you said, it went from a goof, a funny. I think he even said, like, we should do a Dundee style. And I was like, bro, you missed the obvious portmanteau, the Gungies.
Yeah.
And from then on, like, it just clicked. And if I can add one more thing about why it was great, I think the FOMO day after, seeing a lot of people like, I didn't know this was going on. Whoa, this was happening. And that just, to me, that's lightning in a bottle. That lot of room for potential.
This crazy big, and that's why I'm so excited for next year. One, because we have more time, and obviously we're not doing anything crazy right now with planning because it's March, but we have done a little bit of planning, and I'm hoping we'll start in earnest in the next couple months with ideas and things that might need to be planned or filmed or designed ahead of time. So I'm excited for that additional production that we can bring to it. I know after the show, Meat had messaged me, and he had even said, he's like, hey, just so you know, like, a lot of the people in the CG office were watching tonight. So that was super, super cool. I'm very excited to see how it grows. And a lot of the ideas that you've kind of put forth in that, and anyone that does not know what we're talking about, where the fuck were you in January? Like, this is only the biggest thing in Star Wars Galaxy of the Heroes, other than like an Arnold stream. But
yeah, the man's not lying. And Arnold, if you're somehow listening to this, we still have to get something to you.
Yeah.
To just get your people to get with my people to get with their people, and we'll connect.
I've tried. I did have an idea. I was talking to Rabid Beaver, and he had said to me that the way that he eventually first got his attention was with a paid chat on his live stream, like a $5 paid chat. And I was like, you know what?
Okay.
For the goof of it, maybe I'll try that. $5, sure, why not?
We'll do a terrible fundraiser game for it.
Yes.
Just shouting out the Discord. Just do a terrible fundraiser for this, like, 4-digit drop.
25 cents each. Just come on, guys. 25 cents. Just give us our 25 cents. But I when he said that to me, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try it during one of his live streams, just because it was a fun idea, and we did commit, if he reaches out, to physically print his award. Not on paper. Like, I don't know what I would do, a plaque, something else. I'll pay for it at my own expense. I will get it to him. And that's just something that's funny to me. And I will go to the ends of the earth. I will spend any amount of money if something is hilarious to me, even if nobody else finds it funny. There was one year, I think it was like 7 or 8 years ago, I found on DollarTree.com, they were selling lawn flamingos for $1. And I lived in an apartment with an outdoor courtyard. And dumb me, living in an apartment with like no money, I was like, you know, it'd be really funny. Let me spend $100, get 100 of these lawn flamingos. And I had a friend of mine. It was actually before April Fool's. So this is March 29th. It was right before April Fool's. I had a friend of mine come over March 31st. We both got whiskey drunk. We put together these stupid things, and at like midnight, we put them all over the courtyard. Just so that I could wake up and see all of my neighbors looking out their window going, what the fuck is this? Was it worth it?
I didn't bring you any flamingos, but I do have whiskey.
Hey, you know, speaking of, what are you drinking tonight?
Tonight's just Makers, because our take one without pre-dongle.
So that is true. I wasn't going to bring it up, but we did try. Actually, I was going to bring it up later. We did try to do this a few nights ago.
You were. You're going to use it as like a straw man arguing Star Wars. And that's why your internet sucks.
So when we got into that, I was going to bring this up. And the reason I was going to bring it up was we did try to do this a few days ago. This is actually a great segue. You're drinking Makers. I went to the I went to the weird beer store by me today. They always sell weird beers. I have one called Bull Nana Cream Pie. It's a sour, right?
Okay.
I don't know how strong it is. I don't know. I've already have quite a buzz because my wife and I went out to dinner. And then one called Double Rainbow, which is mango tangerine. I don't know. I like weird beer.
Go for it.
But the segue is, we did try to do this a few days ago. I know, I go off on tangents. And it didn't work out because your internet sucks. And it's not that your internet sucks. It's because the laptop that you had has a shitty network card. And we have solved that problem with a Wi-Fi dongle. And it's almost like
$20 Wi-Fi dongle.
They're great, man. They are. I used to use one for my old PC when I couldn't hardwire. And that's the only reason that I was able to help you with the problem. I was like, wait a second, I had this same problem.
Yeah.
But it's almost fortuitous because there was nothing going on in the game Wednesday night. And now we got this big update that has just dropped.
We do.
And like I said to you before the show, this is not a kit reveal show. This is not a read the notes show. This is not
God.
This is not a breakdown show. That's not what we do here. You know that. You've listened to them before. However, I do want to overview it because my experience in the game is different than your experience in the game, and I am curious about that. So for those of you that are in the dark, we have the era of Lord Vader, Revenge of the Sith. It was edited afterwards.
Yep.
We are getting a Lord Vader raid. Presumably Lord Vader is going to be the boss, otherwise why call it the Lord Vader raid, because Lord Vader can't be used. We are getting 4 Darkside clones to go with him. We are getting 2 Jedi Vanguard that are going to go with the Journey unit and Jocasta Nu. And I guess we've seen that Bad Batch, a bunch of Sith characters, and presumably these clones and Grand Moff Tarkin will be allowed. I am somebody that outside of the newest games, because I'm not a whale in any fashion of the word, I have everything. You are someone that has bought a lot of Lightspeed bundles. You are probably Zeta starved and Zeta poor and like sitting out there on the streets going like, please, sir, can I have ability mats? What is your, like, are you excited for this? Like, what's your takeaway on what we know so far?
Okay, so we're going to unpack that as 2 separate things because yes,
absolutely. I know I talk a lot. Please.
No, you're good. You're good. The concept of the new news and my thoughts on it, and then what I think as a player with Episode Pass, with how they've gated a lot of higher relic stuff behind Mark III currency. Well, let's address the fun stuff first. I think it's great. I think it is flipping fantastic that we are seeing something more accurate. Like the Zalbar Omicron got me a little excited. I was like,
yeah.
Oh, is this going to be something and it honors the lore? Like, not only is it somewhat decent, you're new to Kyber. From what I hear, Upper Kyber is if you get the hold or not. And if all of a sudden you can introduce that hold, that's a great Omicron. And it honors both endings of the original KOTOR. I think that's great. I love that the Lord Vader raid is us fighting Lord Vader. I actually went on Reddit earlier and saw you were like the dichotomy of this community.
Yes.
And that's like people being upset that, what do you mean I can't play as the Rancor in the Rancor raid? No, dude. Like, there has to be an onslaught force. There has to be that consistent pressure coming from the raid to make it exciting. That's why Naboo, in theory, works. It took a couple reworks to make that somewhat fun, but
somewhat fun. I still have some reservations, but it is a huge. What they've done to Naboo has been a huge quality of life shift over what it was before that.
And I love seeing what they do with new raids because I try and form like some type of like a stock line graph of what trajectory the game is going. And you look at kind of what we had with raids, and we had Crate. All right, well, it's new raid system. Everyone's going to bitch because it's something new. Then you went to, all right, well, no one like that. Let's go indoor. Let's go speeder bike and throw everything off. And now all of a sudden it's this kind of like temple run style game. Um, and then we go back to things with Naboo, and while Naboo is beautiful, I mean, it is like, I remember that first time seeing that cinematic, I was like, dang, this looks
Like they put a
really
lot of work.
good. Yes. Now, granted, I think a lot of it's time in, not to mention the length of the waves, especially coming off indoor where it was put it on auto, 45 seconds goes by and you're fine. But no, I see a lot of potential with what we're doing with this raid. I can see it being, again, like them pushing back on you, and your people are kind of more on the run. I don't know what they're doing with rescuing Jedi, if that's going to play into a mechanic.
Yeah.
But I will say I'm really excited that it's lore accurate. We're seeing clones come that are lore accurate. GMT being passable in the meantime, I think is just fine. And what are you going to do, man? Like, you look at the 3 raids I just named. They're littered with light side and dark side faction.
Yeah.
But I don't get the hate. I think it's great that they're celebrating. Because what do you want? I mean, can I say the buzzword and get slimed? Do you want acolyte content, Swigo community? Do you really want that?
This is how you get acolyte. I know Bones would like acolyte
what
content.
About Chimere? Okay, all right, the one guy.
You know, just because I know people will comment when we say like lore accurate, I'm with you. I know that one of the big things is, for me, and I think we're on the same page, people have said, well, you're calling it the Lord Vader raid. Why isn't Lord Vader playable? Which is why we assume that you're playing against Lord Vader. We don't actually know that for a fact, but it is a pretty reasonable assumption. I saw that there was some pushback on Reddit this morning because everybody was like, oh, well, Grand Moff Tarkin he hated clones. This doesn't make any sense. This is not lore accurate at all. To me, if the game is fully the lore, if it's 100% the lore, I'll just go watch the fucking movies. Like, I don't need to play the game. Like, in order
the lore
to have...
itself is a contradictory mess. That's why Wikipedia exists. Because some late night nerd was like, I'll fix this.
And you look at that and you're like, there's so much here. I don't know what the hell is going on. But like, I do. So like, Zalbar's Omicron was a huge thing, and it was really cool to see on Reddit and on Discord when people were realizing like, wait, this mission dying thing it's an Easter egg. Like, that's super cool. That's a lot of fun. I love when they do make things lore accurate, but I do understand they can't be fully tied to lore. Otherwise, the game is too restricted.
Yeah. I think we were having a discussion about here we are tangenting about fleets and their lore accuracy, and it's like, really, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Like, I've been pitching a light side Mando fleet with no capital ship, and you can find me in comments and fight me about that later. But yeah, well, I'm sure if you ever do some type of Mandalorian fleet, Gauntlet's going to go there. Well, that doesn't make sense.
So that's interesting. I saw that everybody was talking about that on Discord yesterday, like the Mando fleet, and I'll tell you, I don't know if I'll be able to find the post, but I did make like a comment on Reddit like 2, maybe 3 years ago, not about the Mando fleet, but what I find interesting is that we kind of had the same idea. I was talking about Hondo because everybody was like, oh, Hondo needs a ship and Hondo should run a fleet. And my idea was, well, Hondo's ship isn't really that big. He should be slotted into the capital ship slot, but he's actually on the field as just a ship. So kind of like the same idea of a capital ship that's not a capital ship. So I'm glad we're kind of on the same page as that, because I feel like the last 3, once they did Executor, they kind of dug themselves in the hole of how do we destroy the other capital ship, because that's all we have right now.
And each one has been an answer to that, absolutely, because it's their own. They shot themselves in the foot by saying, it'd be cool, a Death Star. Yeah. Well, even Star Wars knew how do you beat a Death Star? I don't know, make another one. So, okay, how do we do that? It's iconography. We go with the Tantive 4, the opening shot of Star Wars in profundity. Everyone loved that in Rogue One. Cool. It makes it chase. Cool. Leviathan. Well, what are we going to do now? You can assume it and steal its ability. I really see no capital ship because how else do you just shut down Leviathan and just kind
Yes.
of like this hopping around thing? Well, they can't assume a capital ship if there isn't one. But all the while, something like Chimera could absolutely be lifted because if there's no capital ship, you're just slowly whittling down those air units.
Yes. I think it's a similar position. I know you weren't playing the game at the time, but it's a similar position that they found themselves in when Jedi Knight Revan came to the game. And I know we look at Jedi Knight Revan now and we're like, oh, he's good. You know, he's fine. But like when he came to the game, if you look at his kit, it's like triple the word count of any other kit that was in the game at the time. And his revive or like 1% savior mechanic was like mind blowing at the time. And for I think about a year and a half to 2 years, it was just this is the de facto character. How do we get around Jedi Knight Revan? And we started seeing all of these kits just like very specifically being like, oh, anti Jedi Knight Revan, anti the savior mechanic, anti this. And now we have kits that are like, and I say this all the time, they're like fucking Ayn Rand novels. They're just these huge, lengthy things that no one wants to read anymore.
Well, because it's the savior mechanic, but there's like 5 or 6 call outs in a kit now.
Now you can't do this, you can do that, you can't revive, you can do that. And I understand, look, the game is 10 years old and it's always going to get more complicated. But going back to the fleets, they've just built themselves in that hole of we have to get rid of the ship because that's the only way to make the other ship stronger. So how do we get rid of the ship faster than the last ship got rid of the ship? And how do we do it in a way that's just a little different than the one before it?
Right. It has to have its own niche, and really it goes back to that iconography because look at the ones that have the super forgettable ultimate Finalizer.
Yeah.
I don't really remember seeing Finalizer in the movies. There were triangles in the sky, but I don't think anyone called it the Finalizer. Remember that big bastard from Return of the Jedi, but everyone remembers Radis, pew, flying into the other ship.
It was an iconic
everyone
moment.
knows a Death Star. Absolutely. And I think that Mando season 3 I really think that's the ultimate charge, where it's the guy flying up through the stratosphere. And as you're building up, he doesn't spawn in a capital ship. He just spawns in 2 smaller, like Imperial frigates or whatever those were.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just want to see uniqueness. And I think because they buried themselves with Leviathan so deep that if they want to get out of this hole and not just do lifter ships, they're going to have to go completely outside of the norm.
I think that's kind of what happened is with, we were getting one a year and they've dug themselves in a hole where they're like, we don't know where to go from here yet. So let's buy ourselves some time. And that's where we get Punishing One. And I do think this year we're probably not going to get another GL fleet again. I think we are going to get like a profundity lifter, and they're going to do that this year just to give themselves a little bit more time to figure out what they want to do with that ship because of what was happening.
Now, I personally don't think Profundity this year, only because Star Wars original 50th anniversary will be 2077. That's Death Star raid year.
Okay,
sorry,
calm down.
That's locked in.
We'll come back to you being that way in a minute, but going back to like unique kits, that's my favorite in any game. Any game that I play, if there is I don't care how bad the character is. If the character is stupid, if the character plays different than every other character, that's who I want to play. Back when I was in my 20s and I hated myself and I played League of Legends, I like to play Abathur. And Abathur was a character, for those who don't play League of Legends, that did not go out. He stayed all the way back in the base and controlled the battle with like summons and spawns and different things. And it was just very different than, okay, I'm going to go in and fight. That's why Merrin, I've always loved Merrin, even though I don't like those games that much. I love that her kit is just weird. It's no speed. It's this. She feeds TM off of very specific things. I enjoy her, and I took all my Night Sisters up because she plays so weird. That is something that resonates.
The great thing about Swigo is that we all have our different Star Wars niches, and because of this game, I've played KOTOR 1. I've played half of KOTOR 2 and got my ass kicked and gave up because I wasn't going to be beaten by a game older than I am. I've watched all of the Clone Wars. I've watched all of Rebels. it's because of this and because of who's that? Why is this person important? Why does he do that? It was really cool as a young player, y'all constantly using Phoenix to have my buddy be like, I love Kanan. Kanan's second best Jedi to Luke. You should watch Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
Watch it and hear that iconic sound. It's his first special, the big flourish, the overhead ability. It just has such a unique lightsaber sound. And to hear that in the show, I'm like, oh wow, this is they're pulling from the actual content. Lore. And and if that's it, because I mean we're old, Egg. We're old compared to the average Star Wars fan.
I know.
That grew up when Clone Wars was, already completed. They've seen it 17 times over, more than I've seen The Office. And they can tell you why that one has yellow stripes and a red dot on them. I don't know any of that shit.
It's interesting that you bring that up with like the new age fans. I had messaged you last week that I was upstate. My brother is as old as Star Wars. He was born, I don't know the exact release date of Star Wars, but he was born in 1977. He's been a fan his entire life, and we were at a brewery upstate having a discussion, and he was actually bringing up the point that yes, fans his age love the original trilogy. Fans my age, our age, we love the original trilogy because that's what we grew up with. The younger fans, the Gen Z, they love the prequels because that's the Star Wars they grew up with, right? And his point was that a lot of younger children, like when they grow up, he's not so sure that they're going to love the sequels because they didn't resonate the same way. My counterpoint to him, though, was that when Star Wars originally came out, there was no streaming. There was 10 cable networks. I don't know. I wasn't born in 1977. I'm 10 years out from that. There was no internet, or at least commercially or residentially available internet. So it was much easier to capture or captivate an audience. Whereas now, you have a million fucking shows. You have a million movies. There are so many properties. There are so many content creators on YouTube, on Twitch, that kids, it's so much harder to captivate a giant audience of that age group when they're pulled in like a million different directions.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to sound simple, but it really does come down to a mind molded by quantity over quality.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a Zoomer going and watching 12 Angry Men? They would hate it. It's just black and white, and they're just sitting talking in a room. Am I going to go to the bathroom? This sucks. Yeah. Like at least Game of Thrones hit a nice strike of like, all right, we'll give you some action. But I really don't think that I agree with, I think it's your point that the sequels will not go down as any type of accurate or with a fan base in the Zoomer populace, because those movies are key jangling for us. Those that got the internet and are young teens and kind of they're like Bane, they're like, you adopted the internet. I was born in it, molded by it.
Oh, that Bane, the Batman. Yes. I was like, Darth Bane, where are we going with this?
Bane, I'm sorry. No, but like a Zoomer, like you're constantly trying to chase their attention, and the key jangle of the sequels was for us. It wasn't for them.
Yes,
because they don't have that foundation in the originals, and that's what they're trying to do is remember A New Hope, remember Empire, but not Rian Johnson.
Yes, yeah. I think when we look at those movies and everything that happened with them, and we'll get to like actually discussing them in very shortly as we break that stuff down.
We have to.
We do. That's the whole reason we're here. You've been begging me for months, if not, I would say years, but it hasn't been that long.
It was not begging. It was more of a subtle shit talk. And you're like, listen, man, I'm totally down to do it. These are not a front, guys. Don't listen to Egnards.
I do like to embellish things, but I do like to embellish things in a way where hopefully people realize I'm joking. Like after you couldn't do it, we had technical difficulties. I went online with Fat Phil, and I was joking on stream that I messaged him, and he was like, "Oh, sure, I'll abdicate my family duties. Fuck them." And I'd like to think that I'm sarcastic enough that people don't think that he hates his family, and that that's not actually what happened. I don't remember the comedian.
He literally dropped his infant child.
It's like, no.
Like he
there was
rolled off his hand like a bowling ball.
I don't remember the comedian that said this. It might have been like Chad Daniels or so, I don't remember who it was, but he was saying something about how him and his wife, they like to joke about like beating each other up. But like when you say, "Hey, I'm going to punch you in the face," it's like violence. But when you say something like, "I'm going to punch you so hard that you're going to fly up to the moon and like boogers are going to come out and you're going to fly into a volcano," like it's clearly like
I'm just television show.
I'm just fucking with you at that point, right? So I like to think that people realize that I'm just fucking with them. But I guess that is our segue into talking about the movies and the reason that we're here today. Csquared here, for those outside, I like to call him the idiot savant. He remembers every movie he's ever seen. He remembers every movie line he has ever heard. He can go on Discord, look him up, try to stump him on The Office, and within 5 minutes he will tell you the episode title. I've done it. I've done it. I've said to you before, like, "Hey, do you remember that episode where this guy said this thing? Can you tell me what episode that was? Because like I need to know it for some reason." And you'll be like, "Oh, that was season 7, episode 10. And Kevin says this to Michael Scott, and then Michael Scott says this." And I'm like, "Wow."
If you hear this line, you've gone too far.
Exactly right. So like you have this beautiful memory for like movies and entertainment, and I don't. I just remember how I feel when I watch movies, and I remember, you know, like being in a theater, or I remember what was going on in my head at the time. The last time I saw the original trilogy, and actually the prequels, was maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. We talked about this maybe a week ago, and we both agreed to go in blind. So we both agreed, no, we're not going to do a rewatch. It's not fair. Like, let's just go in blind. I'll just rip the Band-Aid off and say that I do think that the majority of people who are Star Wars fans at our age or older, I believe they see those movies as perfect. Like 10/10, no notes. They're perfect cinema, amazing, cannot change a thing. Would you agree, not with that statement, but the fact that a lot of people give off that vibe?
Sure.
I happen to believe I love the original trilogy. I grew up with it. I grew up in the era of the first age of the special editions. I think I'm maybe 5 or 6 years older than you, but we're still the same generation. I grew up seeing them in the theaters with the first special editions. I have seen I have them on VHS, the originals, not the original, because those are really hard to get. I remember.
I'm sorry, just real fast. There's something right here. Oh no.
I have been told that the like original Star Wars, not A New Hope, like is almost impossible to find.
Yeah.
Like that one.
Correct.
Yes, that.
Yes, 1977, a Star Wars.
The literal that cut. I have my VHSs upstairs. Like I still have them. It's one of the. I'm not a hoarder. I sell my stuff. Like I don't keep a lot of things around my house. I don't have a lot of knickknacks. That is one thing I keep. I am of the belief, having grown up in that era, I love them. I remember TBS every Christmas. They would show all 3 of them, and I would stay up. I'd get my blanket. I'd put it in the family room, because the family room had like a 20-inch TV as opposed to the 9-inch TV in my room. And I'd watch all. I love those fucking movies. But I also believe that they are corny as shit. And people, not that they love them too much, but they give the prequels too much shit, and they aren't willing to give the original trilogy enough shit.
There are there are plenty of hilarious things about the OT. I was actually thinking about it earlier, because I'm rewatching Andor, right?
Okay.
In preparation for
Of
season
season
two.
2.
Have you seen the show?
Andor, yes, I've watched Andor, and I
Okay,
liked Andor.
So the maybe Cassian's girlfriend, they have her captured and they're going to torture her, right?
Yeah.
Remember this? And they play the screams of the dying animals or whatever it may be. How do you remember? Do you remember in A New Hope when the crappy little like plastic ball comes in and there's that 1970s like shaky zoom in on the syringe needle? Like what?
Yes. Yes, with Leia.
Yes,
Yes.
there's absolutely cheese in these things, but I will say, as far as the OT goes, that's like if we're going to talk OT to ST, that's comparing the Beatles to like Nickelback. Because are the Beatles
we're
the
not
most?
comparing. We're not comparing them to the sequel trilogy.
We're not.
The
But
prequel
I want to
trilogy.
analogize the OT.
Okay.
I
All right,
want to
fine.
analogize the OT itself. Yeah, we can talk about the PT in great detail. I have lots to say. But as far as the OT goes, yes, there's absolutely rose tinted glasses, but I think that's what makes it fall into that category. I don't want to say 10 out of 10 because it's not. It's there's jank. Absolutely, there's jank. It's the second blockbuster to ever exist.
Yeah.
You're talking about content as far as what Zoomers have to deal with. Let's go back to 1977 when a movie came out for a summer.
Yes.
And it just showed, and that's what it was.
Yes.
You weren't bombarded by information, but in a world that you are, those movies can still resonate and have those emotional beats with. I love when I'm scrolling, like doom scrolling Instagram, and it'll be like showing my daughter Empire for the first time. And it takes me right back to those re-releases because I'll tell you a little anecdote about that in a moment, but seeing the little girl like get so caught up in, no, I am your father. And the shock in her, like, no, it's the same way you were. It's the same way I was. It's the same way the kid in 1970 or 1980 was. They resonate because they have stood the test of time. They may not be a perfect diamond, but they are a diamond nonetheless.
And I always agree. I think you're being nice to me on camera. I need to start showing Discord receipts of our conversations where I've said the same exact thing to you, and you're just like, no, fuck you, shut up. And now you're like, no, I agree. There is some
because you go out and say corny as hell. You have your preface statement.
I'm
gonna go and say this. So I don't get I'm placating both sides of the fence. I love them, but I also hate them.
But you know what? So I grew up in an era, like, again, I had a brother who is 10 years older than me, right? And he's the person who showed me my first R-rated movie. My parents' rule was, I don't care how old you are, you can watch PG-13, no R. And my brother is the one who lied to me and was like, oh no, Army of Darkness is a PG-13 movie, right? It's now one of my favorite movies. But I grew up on like B grade movies. I grew up on Army of Darkness. I grew up on Evil Dead. I grew up on just like Bruce Campbell. I grew up on Street Fighter, which everybody hates. I love that movie to death. I love corny movies. But my only problem isn't that the original trilogy is corny, because that's fine. I just feel like the same criticisms that people give to the prequel trilogy, they're not willing to accept also exist in their original trilogy. See,
I can't sit and call them corny movies just because they have corny things in them. Yes, they do, but they still inspire. They still have a beautiful action story throughout them. They have the hero's arc individually in each up to the overarching trilogy, while the prequels, not only are they're boring. They're boring. They're not bad. I'm not saying they're terrible movies, but they're extremely boring. If you don't believe me, please go back to it's integral to the plot and the reason the whole prequels happen. But it's and do you excuse the motion to ignore the validity of your act? And all this just like, oh my God, am I listening to C-SPAN? It's just
C-SPAN.
misery. It's not fun.
See, I remember seeing that in the theater because when we watched the original trilogy, what planets did we see? We saw Tatooine, we saw Hoth, you
saw the bits of Alderaan, you saw inside
we saw the bits of Alderaan. We saw Endor, which is...
You saw Yavin, Endor,
which is not a planet. Fuck you guys. I know it's not a planet, but like
it's
whatever.
A moon. Well, Endor's a moon too, so we're both shills. Big fans.
We didn't see like, and of course, like every planet is its own biome for whatever reason. I don't know, but
Yes, there's nothing else. If it's got a tall
Yes.
tree, it's a whole forest planet. It snows there. It always snows there.
everywhere on Hoth, just snow. Fuck you, snow. Just everywhere. Hear me out. Snow.
Is there foliage to feed these native creatures? Nope. Just snow.
George Lucas in like board meetings, he's like, guys, I have a great idea. Snow fucking planet.
What if we just had like, and then a big monster comes out? Well, George, don't you think that maybe we should have something outside of that? Some maybe has a fam. No, I just want to see a big Yeti monster. Thank God for Lawrence Kasdan.
I don't know why George Lucas is now George W. Bush, but I'll take it. It's fine. So what I found cool about that, I remember when the prequels first were announced, I remember I was like, I don't remember the exact year. I think I was in middle school when I read an article about the Phantom Menace, and I was like, what the fuck? They can do this? Right? And I remember sitting in the movie theater during those galactic scenes and just being like, there are so many fucking different types of aliens. This is so goddamn cool. Yeah, and that was like a cool little Easter eggs, right? So I can understand going back to it years and years later when we've been exposed to so many things and it maybe not having the same value. But again, it's the same as talking about the original trilogy in 1977 when there's not as many movies versus now when there's a million.
I would have to disagree with that because the pacing of the OT as opposed to the tonal whiplash of the prequels. Let's talk Phantom because Phantom is an easy one to put on.
Okay, yes. And this we did talk a little bit about in our failed fuck you, your internet. I just think you were losing and you were like, I have to make an excuse. But yes, go ahead.
Yes, I've gone and done so much research and relived my childhood. No, so let me give myself some credentials first. I was born in 1991. That Phantom came out in 99. I can remember being driven by my dad and my sister, my dad driving me and my sister, who's 3 years older than me. And he had a crappy IBM laptop, dude. He was like in the .com boom early days. So everybody was getting into the computer stuff. Mm-hmm. And he had this blocky IBM laptop. He downloaded the trailer for me. It must have taken 3 months.
That shit, man.
And every morning on the way to elementary school, in the carpool lane, he would open that up and I would watch that trailer. Because you couldn't do that. Because prior to that, in 1997 was the first re-release, or when they re-released to name them 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
My mom pulled me out of school and was like, I'm going to take you to see something. You have a doctor's appointment, but I'm going to take you to see something, and it's going to change you. My mom's not even a Star Wars fan. She just knew that these movies were something special. And I saw them and I was hooked. And just like you can go back and tell the story of who they are. Because at this point we had the VHSs. I'd seen them on loop because we didn't grow up with, Netflix and streaming. You had a couple videos you owned.
And Disney movies went back into the vault. Fuck you, Disney.
Yeah. But yeah, so when 99 came out, I think that everyone remembers the first igniting of the lightsabers, right?
Yes.
The little Greedo droid brings in the T and dioxazine, and we go into that scene, right? And then we get the first bit of the epic score, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is Star Wars.
Yes.
Well, then we kind of go to like really bad storytelling, but also you're back to fun-loving, doesn't matter your age, accessibility that the OT accessed, and now we got to set up this political drama, which on paper makes a lot of sense. You actually brought up George W. Bush. Lucas was commenting on the Bush administration of the time. Like we were fresh out of the Clinton, moving into, Clinton had served his time. Yeah. We're moving into Bush now. Who was the first one? Bush and Gore?
Yes, I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Lucas was very much in the scene and just wanted to tell commentary on what he thought of the world. But in doing so, lost a lot of what made Star Wars special. In the few little nuggets they gave us that, okay, when Obi-Wan talks to Luke in the cave in his house for the first time, and
Yes.
he's like, they tell him the story of his father. Oh, you fought in the Clone Wars and all that, right? Like you're learning so much in that. They aren't telling you, they're not sitting out and expositioning it, but they're telling you about this world. And then when we get to Dagobah and Yoda says so much about the Force, for it to become, oh, if you're a master, you have a green lightsaber. If you're a Padawan, you have a blue lightsaber. We if you have the braid, then you're obviously a Padawan. But we don't get like moments of them. Like, where's Obi-Wan in the Phantom Menace? We get the opening scene, and then
Yes.
what's he do? What should be our main character for the PT is non-existent. He just hangs out on the ship until he gets, the final climactic moment.
Yeah, well, that, I mean,
We don't-
we, that's when we talk about like the hero's journey, right? Like what?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
actually, this is I hate saying going back to, because obviously no one's seen us talking previously. But what I was saying to you in our original attempt at this was, if I were to look at quintessential Star Wars, I see the original trilogy, and then Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. As just like, these are Star Wars movies. I can criticize all of them to some extent, but my biggest, strongest criticism of A Phantom Menace is that to me it feels like two very distinct movies. And because it feels like two very distinct movies, it feels so much longer than it actually is. And that's one of my big dejections to it, which might surprise people because they're like, wait, you love Jar Jar Binks. I honestly don't really. I just think he's hilarious and silly, and like that's why I wanted him in the game, because he's fucking silly, and it goes back to me liking weird characters. You have what happens on like, all right, we're going to Tatooine, and then you have what happens post Tatooine, and they just feel like two mini series. And once you get past one, you're like, wait, the movie is not over. Like we're doing more.
The climax is the pod race. Yeah.
Yes. And that should be the end of. I know I don't know how the runtime up to that point, 50-minute, whatever it is, but it feels like the climax of a movie, and then you're just like, okay, I'm gonna leave. Oh, we're doing more, and I think that's my biggest ejection.
We'll catch flack for that comment, but it's in the pacing. We didn't decide that. The editor and storyteller led us to believe that this was meant to be the triumphant moment of the climax of the movie, and we're going to move on to the next part.
Yes.
Because there really isn't a teaser for episode 2 in the original Star Wars. That is about a 90-minute masterclass of Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, we're done.
Yes. I think, I go to movies a lot. I go like once a week. Sometimes my wife and I will go 3 times in a week. We'll go to a Saturday, we'll go to one on Sunday, we'll have lunch, and then we'll go to one Sunday night. And what I find when I go to a movie is like, some movies can be 3 hours long, and I'll sit through the whole 3 hours and be like, oh, it's over? Like,
it's tomorrow?
Like, what? There was one, I think it was 2018, 2019. It was like the biopic on Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Battle of the Sexes, or something like that. It was like a 2.5 hour movie. And I remember I said to her walking out of the movie, I was like, I thought we were just getting started. Like the pacing of the movie to me felt like, oh, I didn't believe this is over. But then you'll have a movie like The Batman, which everybody loved. I don't hate The Batman. Calm the fuck down, whoever's watching this. But after the climax, there is about 30 minutes worth of ending scenes. And once I've hit that, I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'm over. I'm checked out of this movie because it's over. After the climax, you give me 1, maybe 2, 5 minutes worth of figuring out the story. That's all I'm there for.
That's a really good point.
The Batman just
really good point, 'cause that is the end of that movie.
It keeps
going. Joker.
They just keep doing it, and it's like, oh, look, I'm going away on my fucking motorcycle, and oh, I gotta talk to Gordon. Like, at that point, I'm like, I don't fucking care anymore.
The commissioner's been evacuated from the lead management. I wonder who's going to fill his position.
That is one of the big things for me when I see a movie is the pacing of a movie, and that's where I think Phantom Menace does fail, because you do feel like, okay, I'm over. Oh wait, no, I'm not. I'm going into something completely different.
But now Phantom does get a big pass because Lucas had this line segment. He had 4 to 6. He renamed them, but he had that timeline from what I don't know, all the BBY crap and all that. But then he said, we're going back and we're going over to this point here. He could have chosen anything.
Yeah.
But he chose to do what, and that's the biggest risk of it all. And now we start getting into a reactionary Lucas, where they hate Jar Jar. The audience hates him. He's not well received. Lucas also, don't forget, in 1999, up to this point, Titanic has come out.
Yes.
Do you really think, can we just all be honest in the chat and say, do you really think Lucas went back and made episode 1, 2, and 3 for his desperate need to tell the origin stories of how Anakin Skywalker became Darth Vader? Or was it for that sweet, sweet cheddar?
It's always for the sweet cheddar. And we can say that easily in 2025 as like everything is going back to what it was, right? It's like, oh, we have the Frasier reboot. My wife and I are now watching the iCarly reboot, right? There was a That's So Raven reboot. There is going to be a Malcolm in the Middle. Like everything is like the Beetlejuice, Dumb and Dumber. Like everything's like, wait, this worked 20 years ago. Let's try it again. That was just the beginning of it with Star Wars and them doing that. But that's kind of why I feel like, all right, Phantom Menace, it's not an amazing movie. There's some cool moments. 5 and 6.
There's a lot of good visuals, and the score kicks ass. Just to wrap on Finn.
Listen, John Williams fucking blows it out of the water every fucking time.
He's the only good actor in the entire prequel. Suck on that, nerds.
There's a lot of hate there. By the way, I want to say something just because I never get to correct you, and I meant to do this before and I just forgot.
Oh darn.
Yeah, I know you fucked up, and you never screw up when it comes to things. Star Wars: A New Hope was actually renamed A New Hope for its first re-release in the 80s. So not in the 90s.
Darn it.
Yeah, it was already A New Hope at that point.
Had he numbered them at this point? Because it used to just be Star Wars, Empire, Return of the Jedi.
I'm not 100% sure if they were numbered or not at that point, but I know that that he named A New Hope at that point for whatever reason. I don't pretend to get into his brain.
He needed the umbrella term. He needed the brand recognition. This is a Star Wars prop brought to you by Star Wars registered trademark.
Yes.
I know Lucas very well. He likes his money.
Loves it. $4 billion. Hey, great, right? Like, and whatever. If I could make that $4 billion selling something, like, great, I'll do it as well. Like, I have no shame in saying that.
He's watching him just throw it all away too. It's so sad. Anyways, on to Attack of the Clones.
So listen,
okay.
Attack of the Clones is a political drama. There's a lot of like the politics and whatever. Again, being in the theater, I didn't care. I loved it. Of course, we get like Kaminoa, which is the water planet. Kamino. I don't know why I said Kaminoa. Why did I say Kaminoa? I don't know.
You guys just had a stroke.
I might have had a stroke. Holy crap!
Just a mild one. You're good.
All right, take 2. We're gonna do take 2 now and just cut this all out. No, Kamino. Fuck, I'm never gonna get over that. But like the water planet, right? Still super cool. Big fan of the Jango Fett fight with Obi-Wan. I might be the only.
And the sounds. His blasters.
For anyone that did not see this in the theaters, the seismic charge was one of the coolest things, because you're in a theater that is so loud and then sound just stops.
Yep.
And you're in
only
your
head, rich neighbor had surround sound.
You're going, did the movie just break? And then just fucking boom! And you're like, what the hell? You don't get, unless you have, like this, I have a sound bar, but I don't have like crazy surround sound all over my living. Like, unless you have the most audiophile setup, you're not capturing how crazy that was. in the theaters.
Now, shout out the Zoomers again. You guys remember 2018 when Cap picked up that hammer and everyone in the theater lost their fucking shit?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? Because I sure do.
It's a very similar. It's moment, a very similar feel. Yes.
It was Yoda. It was Yoda when he says like, "Judge ourselves by our use of the Force we have," and he goes and pulls out the lightsaber and shrugs off his cloak. Dude, people were standing. Let me tell you, this was my like 11th birthday. I'm in the front row, the shittiest seat off to the left, like, and just freaking out with the rest of everyone else. And what was that? 2002. Just freaking the fuck out because no one had seen anything like that. Now, in the moment of just, wow, this is insane. Can you believe Yoda's swinging a lightsaber?
Yeah.
When that wears off, when you've gotten off that roller coaster and you realize it completely contradicts everything Yoda ever said in Empire. And I'm sorry, I've gotten flack about this before, and I've argued with people. The argument of, well, he obviously had PTSD from the Clone Wars and he totally changed his entire character. Like that, I'm sorry, then that's bad storytelling. I can, if you want me to get on board with you, then you have to agree that it's not good storytelling that all of a sudden his entire character just snapped and changed.
Well, I think that is one of the big things. What's the word? Not conflicts. One of the big critiques of the prequels is that, and it's a big critique of me of any prequel, is the need to go back and over-explain everything, right? And like we see that going back to Phantom Menace with the fucking midichlorians, and everyone's like, what? Bugs? There's like little tiny bugs everywhere, and that's the Force?
Oh, the Force is, yeah.
Right? Like that is definitely something that you're going to see in any prequel where people are going, all right, well, this is this character. Where does this character come from? And I think a lot of the times you don't get it as right as you would like to get it. But I also like to look at movies. Yes, I want to know that it makes sense, but I also do like to look at it in a vacuum. And I do remember liking Attack of the Clones just because it was fucking cool, man. Like I enjoyed that movie. I enjoyed the Geonosis like fight and the arena. Like that was, to me, that was like, this is super awesome.
To this day, Attack of the Clones sits as my least favorite.
Interesting.
Even below Phantom. The things I love about it
out of the 6 or out of the 9?
Out of the 6.
Okay.
Out of the 6. Yeah. Okay.
I was like,
go ahead and pick. The others are DQ'd. They don't matter.
just making sure.
The introduction of Padme's theme, I think, is one of the most beautiful songs. Like, like it's so pretty. But the storytelling itself, like what the actors are having to do, is garbage. What I felt in the moment, like I get it, but it's so obtuse. Anakin saying lines like, "I wish I could just wish away my feelings." Great writing, George. Great writing. I'm so glad you have 100% control of this project.
Listen, that is a big critique of George Lucas just in general, right? Like everybody says, like George Lucas does not write great dialogue, and it's his script doctors are what saved the movies. Now, I have heard both sides of that, where some people have said, well, actually, that's not as true as we're led to believe. I don't know what's true. I just know that was a big critique.
Well, I'll say this on Attack of the Clones. I had previously talked about the line segment and the point he got to choose somewhere in the past. Episode 2 feels like dragging his feet.
Okay.
And as a prelude to what we're going to get to with Revenge of the Sith, which feels rushed and why it has the longest Star Wars running time up to that point of 2006. But yeah, to focus on Clones, like, yes, there are some epic things, but it's also not fair that we can judge Clones with the 7 seasons of television on top of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not really the Clone Wars until you understand all this other stuff. Well, then it's not really the Clone Wars, and it doesn't really resonate, and it contradicts kind of what Luke and Obi say back in the cave of, you fought in the Clone Wars? Where it's his reaction to it and what we are shown it to be do not line up.
Yes.
I'll say that.
I do agree, and I think, you know, like right now we see with Marvel as well as Star Wars, like you have to watch the story, like, well, more with Marvel because there's not as many Star Wars movies coming out, but again, like the next Star Wars movie is The Mandalorian. You have to have some context in order to see these movies. Now, the Clone Wars was airing. I don't remember if it was before Attack of the Clones or after. I do remember there was a mini series that happened between Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. I think actually that was the first of them. And that was kind of like
those go first. Yeah, they're the
yes.
Samurai Jack art style.
Yes, and the problem I have with that, it was, you know, like you see Grievous in Revenge of the Sith, and you're like, why is he a fucking geriatric, like, asthmatic? Like,
Right.
this doesn't make sense.
Why should I be scared of this robot?
Like, this is so stupid. Like, where is his asthma inhaler? You had to have seen the miniseries in order to understand why he's not as scary as he should be. And I want to give you a shout out. That's a critique for me.
To that miniseries, Grievous wasn't the standout. It's because they knew that George was like, hey, I'm going to do this robot. You have to do a little backstory for him. The standout is, remember, have you played the second Cal Kestis game?
Yes,
remember Ravis? That creature that has like the pink stuff that pops out of him and he can like heal back his tissue.
Yes, yeah.
That creature is in those Samurai Jack episodes and, well, 2-part movie series. He is way more badass than Grievous.
I'll have to go back and see those, because it's been a long time. I just happened to watch them before the movie, right? Because they were on like Cartoon Network or whatever it was, and I was a kid. But I do hate the idea of like, oh, I have to watch this thing to watch this other thing, especially right now. And this is why I feel a lot of fatigue, not just with Star Wars, with Marvel as well, where it's like, okay, like there's just so much coming out and I need the context to see this next thing. And that to me can get very tiring. And it's frustrating to me because like my wife is not a huge fan, but she will go to a lot of these movies with me because she drags me to things like It Ends With Us and 50 Shades Darker. And I'll have to be like, oh, you missed that thing in these other 3 movies that, by the way, so you need this detail in order for this to like fully make sense.
Well, I'll tell you what, to tangent real fast, what Star Wars really needs is its own equivalent of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, that would be great.
It needs that. You got to stay for the end credit scene to catch 2 seconds of a guy holding a bow and arrow because he's going to show up in a movie someday. Oh no, Thor's hammer is sitting here in the middle of Arizona. Watch out, you don't know. Which was we just go to a nice. No, go ahead.
So when that happened, like that stuff happened in Iron Man back in 2008, right? Like it was really cool to have this scene. And for like the first like 4 or 5 movies, it's really, really cool to get like this little preview. Now I go to these movies and I find myself like afterwards, I'll Google on my phone, is there an end credit scene? And obviously there is, but it's not really about knowing if there's an end credit scene. It's like, is there 2? How long do I have to sit here?
Yeah.
You know,
one's going to matter and one's going to be Jeff Goldblum.
And sometimes I don't even stay to watch them. I just read the synopsis because it's like a little blip. And I'm like, I don't really need to see it. I just need to know what happened. Because it's not that super cool after 15 minutes of watching credits, right? To like see this thing.
But I will give Marvel this. At least Marvel has the foresight and bit of a plan to predict what's coming next. Even if the property that is debuting this tease is not all that great, it gives you enough where you're like, I gotta come back next time. Star Wars, to get us back on topic, does not really have that.
So that's the big thing, right? Like when we talk about like the sequels and if you want to like jump kind of
Disney
ahead. Disney Star Wars, and there are things that I like in Disney Star Wars. The Mandalorian season 1 is amazing. It's quintessential Star Wars. There's 1 or 2 filler episodes, but there's still fun Star Wars episodes.
They fit though.
Yes.
Like the prison episode, which is a bottle episode, the Bill Burr debut, and
was that season 1 or was that season 2?
That is season 1.
Season 1, okay.
Bill Burr gets his big. Yeah,
no, I remember the episode. I remember him
in season 2.
Yes. And there was another episode with Cara Dune and like them saving the village, right? Like that's a filler episode, but it was fun. Like it's a fun it's a nod to like 80s like what is it, like Seven Samurai?
It's a nod to 70s Star Trek. It's a Planet of the Week.
Yeah.
We just kind of went somewhere and
did something.
That's
We went somewhere, we did
Star
something.
Wars. Yeah,
we went
yeah.
somewhere, we did something.
We did a little bottle episode.
Mandalorian was amazing. Season 2 was good. There was like a little bit of iffy. And then, of course, you have Mandalorian Season 2.5 where you're like, really? And then 3 wasn't so great, right? So Disney Star Wars has had its high points, had its low points. I think one of my biggest critiques, and I do think we agree on this, we've talked about this in the past, I have said, and other people have said, and I had this conversation with my brother last week, the Kathleen Kennedy thing. He stopped me. He believes, hey, I actually think, as much as I hate Kathleen Kennedy, his words, I actually think it's more of a Bob Iger problem than it was a Kathleen Kennedy problem. I don't know the truth because I'm not in that boardroom. But it is that problem of, hey, we're going to give 3 different directors full creative control of 3 different movies. And I don't know, let's just see what happens. And now, obviously, it became 2, right? After The Last Jedi, they were like, ooh, let's just give this back to J.J. Abrams and see what happens.
You talked about... I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so the end of the point is we didn't have an overarching person that was saying, wait, these have to work together. It was just kind of like, we're going to do this. And then, Rian Johnson was like, I don't like that. So we're going to do this. And now you have a confused story.
Well, what do you think is more, from a writing perspective, what do you think is more freeing? Trying to pay homage to comic books that exist, or telling a Star Wars story in an unknown galaxy with characters you've never heard of? I feel like Star Wars is the more freeing one, and that's why they've botched it, is they've tried so hard to... It's got to have stormtroopers and AT-ATs and a lightsaber, and I guess somebody's got to use a slow motion force move.
Yeah, of course, that's Star Wars. It's like the Star Wars tropes, right? Like going to like Star Trek. Yeah. There's always the Star Trek tropes.
But look at Andor. Andor completely stepped outside of that, and
that's
like
fair.
Remember that time they're on the jungle planet, and that one TIE fighter's just like, and you're like scared with them. You're like, oh shit. But it's one fucking TIE fighter. We've seen, and then look at look at Rise of Skywalker, where it's just Empire Bukake. Like, how could you ever overcome these odds? Like, it's pathetic. But you don't hire J.J. Abrams to wrap up a story.
That is a word that I never thought I'd hear doing this. But so my position on Rise of the Empire. No, you're not. But my position on Rise of the Empire and what I had said.
That's a game mode. Not a movie.
Oh, right. Rise. I'm like, what are you talking about? Rise of Skywalker or whatever the last one was called.
Put some respect on terrible name.
Whatever it is. Going back to Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, my stance. I remember walking out of the movie, and my thought was, and I'm not a big. There are no directors that I'm like, oh my God, this guy's amazing, right? So take in mind, when I say this, I'm not like sucking J.J. Abrams' dick. I think for me, like, it doesn't matter. It's just like, oh, he has a style. James Cameron does this, Rian Johnson does that. It is whatever. Cool. When I walked out of Rise of whoever it was, the Skywalker, what is the name of the movie? I don't even remember. Is it Rise of Skywalker?
Dark Side Hoth. It's called Dark Side Hoth.
Okay. So when I walked out of Dark Side Hoth, my thought, and I very vividly remember saying this to my wife, was, well, the movie wasn't good, but I think it's the best possible thing that J.J. Abrams could have done with what he was given from The Last Jedi.
A great phrase from one of my favorite reviewers, Red Letter Media, is, did J.J. Abrams spin straw into bronze?
Yeah, right. It's not gold, right? Like, yeah. Yes.
He did the best with what he could. And here's the thing. You don't hire J.J. Abrams, critically renowned for Lost, Fringe, the Bad Robot productions that were really exciting and like, whoa, what are all these mystery boxes? Only to not end satisfyingly and be terrible in retrospect.
Yes.
You don't hire him to wrap the series. You hire him to come in and do exactly what he did with The Force Awakens, which in a vacuum in 2016 is the only sequel that gets a pass because it absolutely captured tone of Star Wars. Yes, it was a retelling of A New Hope. It was, look, here's your Han Solo, here's your droids, here's your plucky woman, here's your de facto clone, I guess. But they were doing the same three archetypes. But you got to go somewhere risky, and that brings us to
The Last Jedi. Yes. So, yes, and that's the other thing. When The Force Awakens came out, and I remember I went to see it with my best friend. We walked out of the movie, and my thought was,
my sister took me. It was a big deal. It was actually kind of like heartwarming.
Yeah, like you go with someone that, like, because you're like, oh my god, like it's the same feeling as the prequels. You're like, oh my god, fucking Star Wars is back, right? I remember walking out and saying to my buddy, I was like, that was safe, but I loved it. Now, in retrospect, the three as a whole, you're like, but just watching that, you're like, okay, they set something up that's very safe. But I can't wait to see what comes next. I'm super pumped for what's coming next. And my stance
that movie served a purpose. It was to introduce us to where we're at.
Yes.
And it did that job splendidly, I would say. In 2016, it absolutely did that job.
My stance has always been, I've said this to a lot of people, when it comes to those three movies, I don't know who would make the best trilogy. I don't know if another director would have done a better job. I don't know. I have no idea. And other people, right, like on Facebook, they'll be like, oh, well, if fucking James Cameron did this, like, it'd be so amazing. I don't know. I have no idea. I'm not an idiot. Like, I don't know. But what I do know is that if J.J. Abrams was given all three, or Rian Johnson was given all three, it would have been a better trilogy overall.
No disagreement.
Does not matter.
Anyone that disagrees in the Star Wars fan base is being contrarian for the sake of being contrarian, because having the congruency throughout the storytelling, because we're not talking about the initial spark of Lucas in 75 that came up with this idea after American Graffiti, and then bringing on Lawrence Kasdan to say, I'm busy looking at my bank account go up, and had Lawrence Kasdan write one of the greatest act twos of any story to ever exist.
Yes.
No, we're talking about someone that's trying to revitalize a property that has old and dusty, well received, not so well received, but very memeable content, and bring it back to not only those generations, but those coming up in it. Ryan, I'll tell you this, with Last Jedi, as much as I hate that movie, as many things as we could sit here and talk about tonight, the biggest problem is Ryan was so busy not making Empire. He made Jedi. He made the end of the movie.
Yeah. But the other thing go ahead, finish your thought.
I was just going to say, I think his subverting expectations for the sake of subverting expectations is what hurt the plot the most. And in doing so, really crippled Mark Hamill's character along the way and did not leave us with something to fill that vacuum in Rey, because Rey's arc was done. She was told not to lift rocks. She ends the movie by lifting rocks.
So that's actually the big thing, right? Like subverting expectations, and I think that's my critique of the movie is it spends so much time trying to be like, no, this is not Star Wars, but it is Star Wars, but it's not Star Wars, but it is Star Wars.
And you didn't see that coming. And it's so much of that.
Like, this is what you expect in every Star Wars movie, so we're gonna not do that. And I remember at the time a lot of critics were like, oh my god, like, it's art. I don't fucking care if it's art. I literally don't care.
For art, yeah.
I want to go to a movie, right? Like, Again, I go to a lot of movies. I go to like 50 to 60 movies a year on top of what I see at home. I'm not going with a notepad, taking notes and going, yes, that cinematic shot was so amazing. And the way that he set up that long frame, I don't fucking care. I want to be entertained. And if you're spending so much time trying to make art and trying to make this like an Oscar like bait movie in Star Wars,
Oscar bait, yes, for sure.
I'm not interested, you know, like it doesn't matter to me. And there was so many inconsistencies, not even with other movies, forgetting the inconsistencies between
in itself.
With itself, yes. Like my
You're
biggest
telling me-
thing. My biggest
No, I'm
thing.
sorry.
I have to. I'm sorry, man, but
No, please.
we are given a 24-hour timeline in this movie. We are told they will come to us in 24 hours. And in that time, Poe Dameron he comes up with a plan. He escapes out of the ship. He steals a ship. He jumps to light speed to some random ass casino. Finn.
Finn. Yeah.
To some random ass casino planet.
Canto Bite.
This is what I'm talking about with Csquared, who remembers every little fucking tiny detail from these things.
Oh, and BB-8's a slot machine. There's a whole plot in that. Like, they're there for a while because they're there to get the code breaker, the guy with the yellow rose.
I'm not even there yet. They don't land on a landing bay. They land like 3 fucking miles away. They have to walk there.
In the fire lane.
They go like get chips. They go gambling. They go trying to find this guy. There's a chase scene. They're thrown in jail. They're knocked unconscious. They wake up in jail.
Hold on. Did you forget about the animals? You forgot about the animal oppression and why PETA is good and we shouldn't abuse animals. Don't forget that.
PETA's great, and the little boy who looks up into the sky. But the little boy who looks up into the sky that's a little bit later. I don't remember what he symbolized. And somebody was like, he's somebody. And I'm like, I don't care. But they escape jail after being knocked fucking unconscious. They run away. They steal another ship. There's a whole fucking...
They meet Benicio del Toro, who's like...
Yes, guys, we're gonna go. I can be trusted. Yes. They jump to light speed again. They get back to the ship, and they're just like, oh, the 24 hours is just about to pass. What?
Have we gotten to the point where we fight Phasma?
No, that's now. But like, you're like, what is this timeline? Like
and we're to believe that all these events happen in the same time we see Poe be cucked from insubordination to insurrection to insubordination to that little line of Holdo and Leia being like, I kind of like him. Yeah, me too. What the fuck? You just had him in chains. What?
It's
such a shit movie, man.
They could have it wouldn't change my whole view of the movie, but all you had to do was change, oh, they'll be here in 24 hours to they're going to be here soon. And that would change a lot of my critique of the movie. Because then I have an undefined timeline. Don't give me a defined timeline and make it so fucking asinine that I'm like, what? Huh? He ran a marathon in 30 minutes?
Star Wars has gone from the prequels where George just wanted to see crazy shit in every shot to studios now having quotas of like, you have to hit this many planets.
Oh my God.
Like, imagine how good The Last Jedi would be if it was the bow-like structure of Empire. If we had that slow chase scene, just like do you remember Egnards when there was a ship called the Millennium Falcon and the hyperdrive wouldn't work? Remember that? It's like, there's no way you can outrun him. Yeah, I can still outmaneuver him. Like, it's the most epic scene in Empire. And then you have the training scene. So we have this beautiful, we start on the same planet. You jet this way, I jet this way. And we go our separate ways only to converge back. It can still be on Crate. I don't care. But they're so busy telling these tangent stories with Rose and Finn and BB-8 so they can cram in a couple more planets and a couple more locations. Because if it's not zipping around the galaxy, it's not Star Wars.
So that's an interesting thing that you bring up, like Empire, just because like we talk about the training scene, right? There's a lot of I've seen differing time amounts for how long Luke was actually on Dagobah, right? Like when you watch the movie, it looks like he was only there.
At most, it's a week, dude. It's
like... So you say that, but like I've seen people say as much as 18 months, which is, I think a book came out that kind of like
in Empire.
Pause, right?
Okay.
Where they have said like, where they're like, oh, it was about 18 months, but then obviously in new canon, I think a book came out that kind of implies that it is a couple of weeks. But the point is, in Empire, all of this stuff going on, we don't have a definitive timeline. We're not told, hey, this is all taking place in 2 days. So we can later on go back and say, hey, this whole movie maybe took place over the course of 3 weeks. Whereas The Last Jedi, it's like, well, this is all 24 hours. We know it was all 24 hours.
How can that exist juxtaposed to the literal chase with Han, 3PO, Leia?
Listen,
until they get to Bespin.
I wish I could tell you.
I know you're just passing on a theory to me, but I don't think that really translates, because and that's what's so beautiful about the Yoda thing is he's rushing in the essentials. Like, he doesn't spend a second teaching lightsaber theory or any of that. It's like, it's in your heart, dude. Like, you know, Captain Planet, heart, and go do your best facing your father. That's the true test. I'll have to show you the thing afterwards that I don't even want to bring up on here because nobody's supposed to know about it. But fine. I don't want to fight any more people on the internet. I'm already part of your Discord.
God, we're not even going to talk about our Discord. I will look for like the links to like the book and hey, like Star Wars contradicts itself. I have no idea, but like we aren't. You know, the only point is in Empire we're not given a definitive timeline. A New Hope, we're not given a definitive timeline. We have no idea how long it takes to hyperdrive from one place to another. Last Jedi, we're given a definitive timeline. And because we're given a definitive timeline, we judge that timeline and we go, I don't get it. Like, that doesn't track. Anywhere else, we go, okay, I believe it. It's just a movie. But when you're given that, like, timer, you go, this doesn't work that way.
But it's kind of funny because the whole reason of the chase is a fuel issue. And if there's anything Star Wars has never cared about, it's been
fuel.
Those small commodities like fuel or battle damage, you know? It's just right to hyperspace. It's all about the adventure and the music gets triumphant and we're off to hyperspace.
Can you do a transatlantic accent? Because I almost heard a transatlantic accent there. I can't do it.
Probably, yeah.
You're like, I can't do it fast.
We're off to hyperspace.
It actually it doesn't work in Star Wars, I don't think, but I remember like Stargate. I don't know if you've ever watched Stargate. It's like 20.
I'm not a nerd.
Yes, you are. It's like 20 seasons overall when you talk about like Stargate Atlantis, and then Stargate Universe, and they're all very different. But the reason I actually liked Stargate Universe, which only had 2 seasons, is that it did care about the minutia. Like, it was very much like, hey, we're out of food. How do we survive? Hey, we're out of fuel. Like, the water is gone. How do we survive? And I loved that minutia. But it worked for me there because it was a show where each week something was happening. Yep. I don't care when it's a movie and I have 2 hours and like, let's go. Like, let's figure this out.
So I'm a big Tarantino fan, but I didn't see The Hateful Eight in the conventional way. I actually saw it on Netflix, I believe, during COVID in a 4-part series. It was the director's cut. Okay. Each episode was an hour, and I was allowed to kind of unplug, go through this little vignette that Tarantino wanted to tell me as they compounded and built upon the characters each and every time. I would really like to see some of these Star Wars properties take that approach. Like, could you imagine Kenobi without someone having to tell them, well, we need about 8 episodes to justify the budget and for the runtime and, you know, advertising. We got to fill a slot until we can make new products.
Why is Jack McBrayer explaining Star Wars to people?
Can you leave my accents alone, please?
I love it, but I'm like, 30 Rock. What's going on here? So I've always said, I've said this before the sequels came out, and I don't regret saying it. I feel like it's a byproduct of the way that TV works, that Star Wars works so much better in the TV format of a miniseries. But yes, it needs to be. No, we don't need 10 episodes. Like, every series needs the amount of episodes. Series. Yes, every series needs the amount it needs. Correct. Yeah. Like, if we need 3 episodes to tell Ahsoka's story, give me just 3 episodes. If we need 5 episodes, and you can do that
You can.
You can
And
do that
imagine
in
how
like
compelling the writing would be for a character when you're not having to stretch the few lines of dialogue you want them to communicate across a 3-episode arc.
So
Like Thrawn is like, oh, it's all part of the plan. Like, all right, man.
you mean
You kept
Thrawn
failing.
Musk?
Showed us you failed over and over.
I think I grew up on Star Wars and Star Trek. My brother was a big fan of both. I watched both. And I watched Voyager, I watched The Next Generation, but I really kind of grew into my own in high school watching Enterprise, which is one that a lot of people don't like. I don't know if you grew up at all watching Star Trek, the shows.
Just the old one, the original.
Just the original. Okay. So Enterprise was heavily criticized, and the first season sucked. Like, it was not good, but it got better. The last season, the fourth season, I really enjoyed. And the reason that I really enjoyed the fourth season rather, was that instead of like an episode of the week kind of format, they did it as like little 3 to 4 episode arcs. So it was like, okay, this story is being told over 3 episodes. Great. After those 3 episodes are over, the new story starts, and it's still the same ship, it's still the same thing, but a new story starts. So you got like this cool like go back every week to find out what happens, and then it ended when it needed to end. You can do that with Star Wars, and yeah, if the executives are like, oh, we need 12 episodes in order to sell this, great. Like, give me 3 episodes, that's the story for Obi-Wan. Give me 3 episodes, that's the story for Ahsoka. Give me 3 episodes, that's the story for Dexter Jetster, and I need to know what happens to him, right? Like, it works so much better, but not when there's, and I know it's with everything, but not when executives are saying, well, this 4 episodes you have here, stretch that to 12 episodes, and we're great.
Yep.
And that's where the problem comes in.
And that's a lot of what Disney Star Wars has made. That's why I love to find the thing that's just so obtuse, it's hilarious. And I have to go back to Ahsoka's starfish space jump with the mag boots, where you're like, they so badly want that Dagobah scene of talking about deep metaphorical analogies to the Force. Like, let me explain it almost in a parable way to you so you can grasp this something you could never understand. And then it's like, oh, everyone has it. It's just a matter of talent. Now watch as I go do my little floop-de-floop flip in space. And that line itself is, not only is it like weak, it's like when you see a Disney live remake of a cartoon where you're like, if you're not going to make it better than the cartoon, why retell the story to begin with? If you're not going to tell me more than Dagobah's going to tell me, why are you even writing this dialogue? But it's surrounded by silence, just...
Yes.
That's not Star Wars. That's nothing.
Yes. I think, and I don't know. It's
my critique. It worked for The Mandalorian.
It worked for The Mandalorian because, at least for me, the first season of The Mandalorian, I know, like, Grogu, they were like, oh, like, let's try to tie this in to everything else going on. But at least the beginning season, while it was like, all right, we're going to try to find the Jedi Temple, it was removed from everything else. This was just a guy.
And Mando's meant to be the man in black who rides into town, the silent stranger.
Yes.
Not every archetype has to be that.
Yes. I think it worked, but, like, we look at the movies, they all have to tie together. We look at all the shows, and they're like, how do we attach this to this one story? There are so many stories to tell. There are so many. And there are so many books, and I know a lot of them are not canon now, and I haven't read all of them, but I've read a few good ones, and the fans will watch these things if you put them out. I do understand the critique, though, that it's like, well, we need everybody to watch it. It can't just be 10 million.
It has to appeal to everyone.
Yes. And that's the
problem.
That's how you get Phantom Menace.
Phantom Menace has bloody sword fighting and killing and slaughtering, and also a cartoon rabbit that steps in poo-poo.
Fish people. Okay.
Isn't that hilarious? It's a movie made for babies.
For me to poop on. Yes. my God. But, going into those movies being young, I was teenager-ish, and I still love them. I can still see how the younger generation at that time, the 7-year-olds, the 8-year-olds going with their parents would still love those things and be like, oh my God, this is so fucking cool. Like I can see that and I can understand that, I need to make sure that this is in here before we finish up at any point. But when we're talking about the sequels, one of my biggest pet peeves, Snoke. I hate Snoke. I hate Snoke so much. Every time somebody says, bring Snoke to the game, I go, fuck you. He's so stupid. No.
He's a mystery box in himself. He's the non-villain.
And we're going to get a property that explains him, and we're going to be like, please don't. Like, we didn't need him explained. And my problem with Snoke is that in the second movie, we get Force Skype calls. It's the new Force power. Force Skype calls. Right? Like, it's never been done before, but now, with the Force, a third-party operator can Skype call 2 other Force users to talk to each other. In these
Your whole body gets in the room, and you can actually become sexually aroused and uncomfortable by Kylo Ren.
Not right away, but that does happen by the end of the movie. By the end of the movie, you can transpose objects.
Starts with the water.
He's so powerful that these 2 characters that are light years upon light years away, he can talk to each other. It's like Force Bumble, right? Like that's what it is. It's a dating app for Force users, and he's able to do this.
And I'm goofing. It actually goes beyond that. It's that he's blending their locations, their atmospheres into one realm. Again, with the water where it's raining on Act 2 and Swallow's hand gets wet. That's how powerful Snoke is. It's not dyad, it's that we're led to believe Snoke's influencing this and has brought these 2 together.
Correct.
Because up until this point, we don't know the meme that Palpatine has returned.
Correct. Now, we get into the throne room. And this motherfucker, who is this powerful to make this shit happen, cannot see that Kylo Ren is very slowly moving his own lightsaber. Like, he doesn't sense this at all. To fucking kill him.
All the while saying dialogue like, kill the one that has bullied you and made you insecure about your haircut and the fact you got beat by a girl. Kill your true villain, the one that all of us know in the theater seats know is the bad guy. Like, it's just so obvious, dude. And again, this goes back to like the differing not just directors, because Star Wars wasn't always directed by Lucas. Obviously, we've talked about that, but like whole different writing teams that were not communicating with each other. We set up a villain. We're like, oh shit, who is this ugly motherfucker? He is scary looking. And they're like, he's fine. There was so much in Force Awakens. It was the scar tissue across the head. It was the fact he had to project himself. Not only did he project himself, but he magnified himself to make him look bigger, which means he could have been any size. He made Kylo Ren kneel. He made Hux kneel. There was a lot just in those few moments in Force Awakens. You're like, this is a bad motherfucker. And we see him, and he's got on like a robe from Austin Powers 3. And he's just chilling. He's literally, he's our size. He's just chilling in a chair.
He's just the 7 dwarves in a trench coat. It's just one of those moments where I'm like,
playing in the background.
I'm like, this is so stupid. Like, what is happening? I remember watching it. And
he was meant to be the new Palpatine.
Yes. And then they were like, well, you know what? Actually, let's just make Palpatine the new Palpatine. What is old
we'll have Oscar Isaac say it.
That I needed to get that in there. I hate it so much. I kill it with fire.
It's so stupid.
Kill it with fire.
Kill it if you have to.
But our original discussion was a original trilogy and prequel trilogy, not even, and we spent more time with the sequel trilogy, and just the comparisons there, and you know, again, from my perspective, just saying, hey, listen, these things are corny. These things are also corny. They both have flaws. From my understanding, I didn't see them in the theaters originally, but from my understanding, like the Ewoks, who we like go to Endor and we're like, oh, hey, like, okay, Ewoks, fine. Like people were like, Ewoks are fucking stupid in 1980, whatever, one, right? Like 1982, like this is really dumb. But now we just accept it as this is really cool. Like we love the Ewoks. Like they're great. Wicket, awesome.
Yeah, we didn't even actually go through the OT because there's a lot of problems in Return of the Jedi. Harrison Ford has clearly checked out. Like we have this fantastic opener with Jabba's palace. It's so strong. I mean, that right there. First act chef's kiss.
Yeah.
When we fly off on the skiff and we get back, Harrison is clearly just checked out. Like he's not having a good time. He's there for the money. Listen, princess, I'm in it for the money.
I mean, and hey, he is a smuggler. That's what he does.
But I think with the OT compared to the PT, the ST does not make my opinion change on either of them. The PT I grew up with. Anecdotally, I grew up with them. I saw them in theaters. I remember those visceral moments. I remember the heart flooding with emotion. I kept on to my 2006 Revenge of the Sith ticket stub.
Yeah.
I still have it somewhere in a box somewhere because I thought, foolishly, it would be the last time to see a Star Wars movie in theaters on opening day. Boy, was I wrong.
So
I mean, big oopsie.
I actually saw, so if you remember, I don't know if you saw this on the internet, but like when Attack of the Clones came out, Conan O'Brien did Triumph the Insult Comedy Dog special outside of the Ziegfeld Chinese Theater in New York City. Okay. And there was like a 8-hour line of people there. And they were like, there was like trailers watching the original trilogy and like people with lightsabers and like just having fun for 8 hours, right? Like while, of course, Conan O'Brien, what's his name? Something Daniels, Jeff Daniels maybe, was out there with his like Triumph dog making fun of everyone. It was a very, did you ever seen this?
Oh yeah, I'm not this exact thing, but I know the people you're talking about. I just haven't seen this thing you're
I have to send it because I've seen this like 30 times. It is so funny. Revenge of the Sith, my brother got tickets at that theater for the opening night. So I saw Revenge of the Sith at the Ziegfeld, like the historic theater, at midnight. I had to stand in an 8-hour line. You know, and I guess I didn't have to stand in a line, but it was part of the experience of like, no, we're going to go early and stand in this line and do this thing. And I saw it in the theater with the super nerds who were like jacked out of their mind ready for this movie. Like that is...
Yes, they were full of Mountain Dew, Code Red. It might have been Surge, some black market Surge soda they found.
This Code Red brings me back, man. Like that is, to me, that is one of the quintessential movie experiences where like going into my late teens into early 20s, I loved midnight showings. Tell me Revenge of the Sith got the standing O that my theater did back home in Carolina, because I distinctly remember that being at Crossroads movie theater, and just like a 5-minute, it felt like eternity. I'll be honest. It was
a young kid. I was like,
yes, it was jacked. Like going there. It was jacked because and again, like to us, it was like, oh, there's no more Star Wars after this. Like there's never going to be any more Star Wars because you had a trilogy, and I understand like people
and that movie does such a good job of tying up literally everything.
Yes, it does. As Revenge of the Sith, yes, it does. As a prequel trilogy, we go, oh, like things were explained that didn't need to be explained. But as a movie, we go, yes, I get it now. I understand like the issue with Vader and Obi-Wan. I get why everything has happened. I get why
Luke is with the aunt and uncle.
Yes, why Luke was like Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, and and why the empire is in charge and why there is a rebellion, because like the empire wasn't there forever, and it hasn't even actually been there that long if you really think about it.
No, well, that goes back to the not understanding the two discussions that kind of talked about the yesteryear of the OT. Because
Yes.
It feels so drastic. It was like, wow, the Empire has only been around for, when was Luke's birthday?
Like
Okay, 2 days
years.
before that.
He's 17. Yeah, right. And like at that point, you're just like, oh, the Empire is the Empire, and there's a rebellion because reasons. Now, obviously, there's a rebellion because they're oppressive. But like now
Absolutely.
you see like, oh, it's because there was this galactic senate that's been there for thousands of years, and like now they have kind of become this problem faction, and there are people still living who were part of the original, who are like, oh no, that's not good, that's not how things were, and we get that, and we get that closure, and we walk out of the theater going, that's it, Star Wars is over, right? We didn't live in an era.
It definitely felt like that.
We didn't live in an era now where it's like, of course there's going to be another one. Obviously there's another one.
I mean, do you remember, you've got to remember the $4 billion deal going down. Like,
yes.
That picture of Lucas sitting there so depressed. He's so sad, dude. He made $4 billion bucks, but he's going to watch his property be destroyed in front of his
What was it? Was that 2012, I think, or 2016? I think 2012.
I believe it was 12. I think it was 12.
Okay. Because I remember like reading about that, and it's not that people were excited about it because they're like, oh no, George Lucas, like he's the mastermind. But there was also like that cautious optimism of there's going to be more Star Wars now. Disney wouldn't buy this if there wasn't going to be more Star Wars. Now, obviously, there were people going like, wait, Star Wars without George Lucas is a problem. But there was at least that cautious optimism of there's going to be more, and we can't wait for that.
There wasn't that many saying that. A lot of us still love Lawrence Kasdan's risks in 5 into 6. He did write Jedi as well. Yeah, Luke being the I don't see that's the biggest problem with Lucas is who you are when you're, I don't know Lucas's birthday, but let's say he's probably, an 18, 20-year-old kid when he comes up with the idea for American Graffiti, gets a little bit of clout with a studio, and then makes this sci-fi movie that needs a bunch of on-location stuff and a lot of props and a lot of miniatures, and he thought it was going to be a one-off and flop. There's a huge difference between that guy and the guy who went back and renamed them, who owned Skywalker Ranch, who had absorbed, was it MGM as well as THX Audio? Like he had become a conglomerate at this point. Huge difference in the storytelling that person's willing to take risks with. Because if you're just throwing $5 into the slot machine, what's the big deal? It's $5. Yeah. But when you're putting on your entire career and namesake and franchise, now we really are gambling at high stakes. And I think Lucas played it safe, but also doesn't really understand what he created in the first place.
I could see that. I could definitely see, it is. It's kind of like one of those lightning in a bottle things, and it does come out like if the original movie came out today, right? Like Star Wars didn't exist. The original movie came out today, obviously assuming the graphics, the whatever, the blah, blah, blah of 2025.
On par. Yeah, on par.
Yeah, on par and like averaged out to what we would expect. Would it have the same cultural impact? I think no, but I do think that comes back to the fact that there's so much now versus back then where it was like, well, this is the thing. There's not 5,000 other things to compete with.
Well, I still think the movie theater died with Avengers Endgame. I think it had been dying for a long time, but that was the final death rattle of that movie theater experience. We went through COVID. There was the whole Barbenheimer. Actually, before that, it was Christopher Nolan saying Tenet was going to be the movie to get people back in theaters, and it didn't. Yeah. And then Barbenheimer came, and the world had changed at this point. We were 3-4 years separated from what COVID was and that whole fear mindset. So I really don't think there's been anything in movie theaters that if Star Wars were to come out, is it going to win Oscars? Is it going to be the top of the charts? No. Is it going to be 100% on Rotten Tomatoes audience score? You bet you.
This is a whole other conversation.
People are starved for that clear storytelling.
This is a whole nother conversation, again, as someone who does go to the movies a lot, obviously. I've said this before, and I will tell you, we joked about this. This was going to be the longest episode, and it already is, which is fine with me. I've said this since when it happened, but MoviePass, right? I was a MoviePass subscriber. It was $10 a month, one movie a day, right? And I've said MoviePass died for our sins, right? And I've joked about that often. Because what MoviePass tried to do, MoviePass has actually been around a lot longer than people realize, and I remember it being a thing back in like 2010, but it was like $50. It was for cinephiles only, right? Like the people who literally go to movies every day, and they need to see every movie. And then it was bought out by an investor, and as investors do, they want to see explosive growth. So they dropped the price to $10, and their whole goal was, let's get so many millions of people that we now have bargaining power. Because it doesn't matter the $10 a month, because now that we have bargaining power, we can do two things. One, we can try to get discount tickets to reduce our cost. But two, we can also try to get a % of concessions from the movie theaters, right? And then the movie theaters, when they tried to do that, were like, well, we can just do this. We don't actually we don't need you, right? Which is why I say MoviePass died for its sins. I'm an A-list subscriber now, and I pay $26 a month, right? And because I'm in their most expensive market, but 2 movies a month pays for that. And sometimes last month we saw like 1 movie. We were so busy. But the next month we see 8, right? And it just kind of like works out. I think that things like A-List, like MoviePass, Regal has their own, whatever, the Alamo Drafthouse has their own, things like that have made movie going a lot cheaper overall, but not everybody realizes those things are out. And I mean, it's a smart business move for theaters, because I do spend more money at theaters now, right? As a subscription model, I go to the theater. I said this, I texted you 4 hours ago. I said, listen, I'm going to be in a bad way because my wife has said, hey, we're getting drinks at the movie theater, which I never would have done with a $20 ticket. You know, I never would have done that when the movie price was $20 a ticket. But now that I've paid it as a subscription cost and I know I'm getting my money's worth, I'm like, yeah, sure, let's go buy a double whiskey. Fine, and we're gonna go to the movies. But not everybody understands that is there yet.
Let me requalify and not say it's the death of the movie theater itself, the business. It's the death of the movie theater going experience. Those moments like when Yoda grabbed that lightsaber in Attack of the Clones and everyone stood up. Those moments like when Cap grabbed the hammer.
They are fewer.
Yeah. And because, again, it goes back to what we talked about off the top with Zoomers. It's a quantity over quality thing. We're looking for something with so much shock value or so out of left field. But even that's fleeting. While between Barbie and Oppenheimer will go down as a better story because it is a better story. While Barbie was just like, well, look, it's pink and it's crazy, and we're going to do some like a social commentary as well. While something like Oppenheimer is a biopic and it was a lot of love and heart poured into it. Is it movie of the year? Probably not. But is it a movie that will stand the test of time? Hell yeah.
They were both very good movies. I did do Barbenheimer, obviously.
Barbie yes. Oh yeah. I got 2 girls, man. Of course, I brought my girls, and my wife had a shirt for me. I was very embarrassed.
I was actually mad because we went to Starbucks that day, and my wife put on her Barbenheimer shirt, and I was like,
"Got it.
You didn't buy me one? Why don't I have a Barbenheimer shirt?" She's like, "Oh, I got it on Etsy." Well, where's mine? Why didn't you get 2 on Etsy? You know, like it was fun. I enjoy those experiences, but you are right. Like, there are movies we will go through our AMC app and we will decide what to go to based on a couple of factors. And sometimes it'll be, oh, this is an indie. We have to see it this week. It's not going to be there next week. Or sometimes it'll be, this is a theater experience movie. But unlike in the past where you could maybe go to Endgame the second week and still have a big crowd who's excited and first run and whatever. Now it's like, we have to go Saturday night. of the first weekend. Because if we don't go Saturday night of the first weekend, we're not going to get the theater experience, and we want the theater experience for this movie.
Right. I mean, my wife will be the first to tell you, I hate when someone talks during a movie. Like I'm the guy that wants to sit and absorb and really immerse myself for that.
Yes.
What's going to pull on my heart? Like this is a total tangent, but I could tell you the first time I ever saw Donnie Darko and what that did to my thinking. I was like, why are you wearing that stupid bunny suit? Why are you wearing that stupid human suit? Mind blown. Most beautiful word, cellar door. Just love that type of stuff. I'm sorry, I got to talk about Donnie Darko and lost my point now.
So no, I kind of understand the point though, because again, we go to the movies a lot, and there are movies where I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Stop talking. Get off your phone.
Oh, yeah,
Whatever.
The experience, yeah. You want the hype. You want that.
But like you go into certain movies wanting that, right? Like, yeah, like some movies you don't want that. You're like, I just want to watch the movie. But some movies you're like, that is the experience I want. When I go to a horror movie, I want people screaming. I want everyone jumping. I want to see the popcorn flying and be like, right? Like I love that that communal experience for that kind of movie. You know, but obviously a more serious, like an Oppenheimer, I don't want people like talking. Like there's no moment in that movie where people need to stand up and clap or like yell or like do whatever. It's a bomb.
Make that fucking bomb, baby.
There's no point in that movie where that is the important thing. But it just depends on the experience that you're looking for there.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on.
With that said, we are pushing 2 hours. It is 10 o'clock at night.
I can't believe we got it to work.
I'm so glad that your internet works, and it looks so. People who are watching this don't understand. Your picture looked like shit on Wednesday, and this is only Saturday, and that is the magic of technology, where you can order something and it shows up at your house literally the next day.
Thank you, Bezos. I'm gonna go
Jeffrey
listen to
Bezos.
I'm gonna go listen to Bo Burnham. Yes.
Jeffrey Bezos. Yes. I seriously, I do appreciate your time. I appreciate your wife giving me your time. I appreciate my wife giving me this time.
Thank you, Mrs. Csquared. Thank you, Mrs. Nards.
You were there when I did the one chip challenge. She's not excited by the things that I do. She sits in the corner. She was like, she woke up early for that. She was like, "Oh, you're not in pain."
So disappointed.
I'm going back to bed. She's like, "I'm over this. I'm done." I appreciate, everybody's time in this. For the 3 people who are watching at this point, we do.
I'm Csquared. I run Fortuna Favors the Bold. Shout out Bear. Shout out Drayden. Shout out JRCR.
And
thank you, everyone. I know you suck.
No, but
you know Enigma.
I do know Enigma. Enigma's for Enigma. We're gonna finish off on this for Enigma. So I'm gonna say Broncos Country, and you're gonna say Let's Ride. Are we ready? Broncos Country.
May the force be with you.
Fuck you. Broncos Country, let's ride!